There are trainers I know who don't even train themselves, which is
Yeah.
like, to me, I'm baffled by the amount of times that question is asked. Like, why? Sorry, that's just there's. I disagree with the premise that there is no such thing as a bad question. I think there are absolutely bad questions,
Yeah.
right? Like, I think the framing of a question can give you some insight into the utility of the question. Like, that's just not even that question just doesn't exist in my brain. Do you have to lift to be a good coach? What? How are you asking me this?
Yeah. So this goes along the lines of what you mentioned about observing Yo with the level 3, but the most impactful learning experiences I've ever had were things that I've done, things that I've observed and I've done. Like putting yourself in a scenario where you can pick up on everything that's not able to be communicated with words, or it's not readily communicated with words. Like you can read a manual on how to train, you can pass a test, and you can be a trainer. That's exactly what the process is. But think of how hard it would be to explain the experience in coaching in the same room as Yo with these athletes by writing words down on paper. You just couldn't convey the message in the same way. There's so many nonverbals, the way that Yo conducts himself, the way you position yourself in the room, your body language, the things that are kind of outside of your control. Like how are you managing the workout? How are you making decisions around each player that you're interacting with? There's so many things that you can't learn unless you're actually observing in that scenario, and that's expedited learning. Those are the things that you need to do to actually understand. Like someone could tell you that and you could know that, and you could grasp that knowledge, but it's nowhere near the same degree as actually implementing that and doing it yourself. And the same thing with training. I had a conversation recently about, like, how did I learn about biomechanics? And you and I, we had a very in-depth education around anatomy, physiology, biomechanics, yes, but the way that I learned biomechanics and continue to learn biomechanics is by training. Like you can tell me what tibial rotation is, but until I understand how that relates in a squat, how that relates in uh, a single leg deadlift and a calf raise, like, until I see how that integrates in the system as it works, and I not only see it, I feel it and I understand it and I feel the implications of that, that's when I own that knowledge. I possess that knowledge that this is how this is going to affect training. So if you're not training and you're not testing these things on yourself, there's no way that you can say these things with any sort of confidence or accuracy and tell someone else how to do it.
Yeah, it's funny because like the evidence based crowd, I think it's been replaced with the optimal crowd. So like,
Mm,
there's been a
yeah.
very like a kind of a nuanced sleight of hand in the way people address their approach, and I think they're the same crowd. The optimal crowd and the evidence based crowd, all they've had to go through a rebrand because early days of evidence based, air quote evidence based, being a marketing ploy on social media for coaching or for education or whatever, it it when you promote things in the fitness industry and you're dealing with health and wellness, and I mean you could even extrapolate this out to longevity, you understand that the human system, when we're dealing with it in this arena, when we're dealing with it in like making meaningful physiological changes to like physique or health markers, single body composition or blood glucose levels, whatever it is, like there's an even people who know nothing about training understand that it's going to take a little bit of time, right? It's going to take a little bit of time. Why? Because every single person at some point has like ate a salad for 2 days and realized that they don't look any better. So like there's this buffer of like, okay, I understand that this intervention, this new thing that I'm going to try, that the delayed gratification of this, the ability to reap this potential benefit in the future is going to be further along in the future. So years ago, and people might not even remember this, like the marketing ploy du jour was always evidence based. right? It was someone who had very little experience, who was touting what, like you said, was just kind of written down that they have never done themselves. And they were taking this, and I don't want to say it's not evident, taking one part of evidence and bringing this to the masses. And what has happened in the time since evidence base has kind of peaked and then dropped off is it hasn't dropped off. It's just changed to, it's rebranded to optimal, because those people who were just evidence based, touting research and all of this bullshit with no experience weren't getting results, right?
Yeah.
The statute of limitations on your ability to prove that your concept is valid through the end result that you promise has been reached. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, wait a minute, the research papers and all of this science stuff that you talk about actually isn't getting me to where I want to go. And rather than just go, right, evidence-based is more than that, they go optimal. And then that's the sleight of hand. And here we are now with people who are chasing optimization. Optimization, and it's funny because you see rebrands like this all the time. Optimization is the rebrand of evidence-based from, I don't know, 5 to 10 years ago. Longevity is just a rebrand of wellness from 5 to 10 years ago. It's the same bullshit, right? Now, like maybe the obscure supplement that you take is different, but it's like you can't, wellness became, they almost found out. Everyone's like, well, hold on, I'm taking medicine and I'm not sick. They're like, right. How do you feel? Well, not sick. It's like, exactly, wellness. And you're like, God damn it. And then it's like people started to get wise, and now it's like longevity. It's like, how do you feel? Alive. Like, exactly, you're not dead. It's just like, God damn it, man. But it's like, it's worth, I think, dissecting what evidence is, because I don't think we should do away with the term evidence-based. I just think no one actually knows what evidence-based actually entails, right? Evidence-based is not research, right? Like it's not just what's written in research. And I think if anything, as the pendulum has shifted, because prior to the wellness crowd, prior to the evidence-based crowd, bodybuilders just sort of said shit. And you know what?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? I love them for it. Because at the end of the day, they had what everyone else wanted, was results. The bro science culture was the bacteria on the forest floor that like really gave life to this entire information ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
They were the seeds that hatched into all of these different offshoots. It was bodybuilding. These guys like, how do I get huge? What if I take this drug? Oh yeah, I put on 5 pounds. What if I take this drug? Oh, he died. Okay, don't take that one. All right. So going back in, but at least they had the results, right? So now it's like there was a pendulum shift from bro culture and anecdotal evidence being the only thing that existed, and it was countered with the research. But I think what people miss when they're appraising either like this two sides of this coin is it's two sides of the same coin, and the coin is a human being. And just like, bodybuilders did a bunch of crazy shit and lied about a bunch of crazy shit. Oh no, the research guy lied about a bunch of crazy shit, right? Like the more I veer into the academic side of things, the more I realize I'm like, oh shit, these people are just making stuff up. Like what was the Coca-Cola study that where they paid like Harvard researchers to say that sugar was good?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's just such an insane proposition that like people will buy into. And that's where I think what I like about true evidence-based is that it's a 3-prong approach. That it's not just a 2-party debate.